Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Tuesday Sew Along. We have, first of all, I have several things to share with you. We have started getting in our January shipments of fabric, and we've gotten a lot. Tony has been busy all day putting fabric on our website and putting it on the shelves. And so if you're local, be sure and come by because, of course, it's always prettier in person than it is online. But I have a few things to show you and share with you just so you can kind of see and see what's coming. I brought just one of my new Island Batik 10-inch cut squares, pre-cuts, to show you, but we have several colors. So you'll need to come by the shop and see them. Sometimes our pre-cuts are on our website, but sometimes we save them for our local people because it's that way. That gives you a really good reason to come see us. We also have some 2.5-inch strips of Island Batik fabrics in several colors that just came in. And we have about 12 bolts of new Island Batik fabrics and some bolts of Tonga Batiks and yeah, that's Tonga. There was another one, but I can't remember. And a bunch of new tone-on-tones for our color wall and some new lines that are from various companies. Now, if you are not following us on Instagram, you need to do that because that's where I post pictures of new fabric as it comes in. And we haven't been we've been so busy today, I haven't got it posted, but I will tomorrow. I have a couple more things to show you. This is a layer cake from Moda from Jolie, and I roll them so you can see all the beautiful colors. And got some pretty kind of spring and summery colors just to kind of chase the winter blues away, which is kind of nice. Then the bolts of that are coming later. They often don't come together. This is Euphoria, which is a really fun, modern, contemporary look. And it's got beautiful colors, some pretty purples, greens, blues, teals, yellows and oranges. So it's a nice summery print too. And then we have, which we rarely do, we bought a whole line from Henry Glass. It's called Froth and Bubble, and I just brought 4 of them to show you. The colors are yummy. I don't know that you can see online the colors as pretty as they are. They're greens and rose and mauve, and there's some dark turquoise. I don't even know what to call that, dark teal in that line. And then we have a project that we will be offering as a kit. So be sure and look for that. When we get it done, we will share that picture with you. This Froth and Bubble is from, oh my goodness, Renee Nesbitt, which is the lady that's behind Buggy Barn. So she's been around for a long, long time. I can't remember the name of her company now. And we have 28 bolts from that group and from some of her coordinating groups. So that's something that you want to be looking for when you come into the shop, and we can point you where they are. And like I said, we got lots of new bolts that are on our color wall. So be looking for those as well. So tonight's block is called Floating Diamonds, and it looks like this. Let me go to the overhead camera. And the tool we will be using is the Diamond Rects tool, and I'm going to talk to you about how you use that tool, what lines you look for, and that sort of thing. It actually is a block that's just made in 4 quarters, and each quarter is exactly the same. It's just how you turn it. I chose to put gold on the corners of the blue diamonds and blue on the corners of the red diamonds, but you, of course, could use any color you like. You could do these strips of background and squares of color in a strip piecing style. You could have a strip of your color and a strip of your background. If you decided to do that, let me find my plate so I can tell you how big those strips need to be. you would need a strip that's 4.5 inches for your background and a strip that is 2 inches for your colors. And then when you put those together, that'll be the size that you need. That seems like it's wrong. I will check that and tell you for sure. Let me look real quick because I know this is the right length. No, they're 5 inches and these should be 2 inches. And then that would give you the length you would need. So be aware of that. So the finished units of Diamond Rects that we are going to do are, let me rewind just a little bit. Since I did not do these as a strip set, I would sew a square onto the end of my rectangle, and I pressed toward the square in this case. And you could press either way you wanted to, or you could press open. A lot of people are getting into the pressing open technique, and they're liking that really well. So our units for today, and I'm going to demonstrate the split Rex tool making these 3x6 inch diamond rectangles. So if you're making these diamond rectangles, making them where these pieces are exactly the size they need and you are left with the seam allowance you need so that you don't cut into the points either on the sides or the top or bottom, that's the challenge for making the Diamond Rex unit. So the tool looks like this. It's got several parts of the tool that we're going to talk about. First of all, this is our trim down section, the square off corner, and you're going to be putting your Diamond Rex unit vertically like this to trim it. If you're left-handed, you're simply going to turn your tool a quarter turn so that you're putting your Diamond Rex in a horizontal position. This side of the tool is what we use to cut our pieces to get ready to stitch. If you'll look carefully, there is a diamond shape on here, and you have on this 5 different size options. So you can make a 1x2, 2x4, 3x6, 4x8, or a 5x10 version of the Diamond Rex. We are making the 3x6 diamond. So it tells me right on the tool, start with a 3 1/4 inch wide strip. And I'll show you what I'm going to do with that in just a minute. But here's my 3 1/4 inch wide strips. I have one that is my red and one that's my blue. And then you could also fussy cut if you had some image that you wanted to feature here. You have basically a window template to be able to cut that shape using this side of your tool. Then this part of the tool is what we use to cut the side triangles that are going to go on the sides of your diamond. Right on the tool, it will tell me, according to the size that I want to finish with, what size rectangle I need to start with. So I'm making 3x6 finished units. This tells me to start with 2 3/4 by 4 inch rectangles. So that's what I have here. And I actually have a pair of them. And I've cut them the way they come off the bolt. So the back sides of the fabric, the wrong sides of the fabric, are touching. And I want to leave them that way and stack them up nice and neat. And then I'm just going to put the edge of my ruler right on that rectangle. This long solid line is going to go on the edge. And notice it's going to make me have a flat top and a little flat spot here on the bottom. And I'm going to need that when I cut my pair of rectangles. That's going to give me my 4 side triangles. So I'm going to need for each of the diamond rectangle that I'm going to make, I'm going to need a pair of rectangles that will be cut so that I have the triangles I need to surround that diamond. So I'm just going to cut a couple of them for right now. Well, you know what? They're not that hard to cut. I'm just going to go ahead and cut all of them because I will need 4 for this block. Get this out of the way. And if you're comfortable stacking more than one pair, you could certainly do that. Normally I would, but I had wiggled these around where they weren't really stacked as carefully as I like. So I decided to cut just a pair at a time, and I can line up the edges so that they are all nice and straight. So there are my 4 triangles that are going to go around my diamond. And notice I'm going to lay them out so I can actually see how they'll fit around my diamond. Notice the flat part goes in the middle, the pointy part goes at the top and the bottom. So I'm just going to lay this set together. I'm going to lay this set together so that I can keep track of the ones that go together. So this is 4 different diamond Rex units. For the diamond shape, I can cut 1 at a time or I can cut 2 at a time, whatever you're comfortable cutting. There is not a right and a left like there are for the side triangles that I have to make sure I have a mirror image to go around my diamond, because I have to have that mirror image to go here. On this, I don't have that issue, so I could actually stack my 2 colors, and I'm going to do that today. And I'm just going to make sure they're nice and straight. Then I'm going to use let me see if I can see that line better. Let's go this way so you can see the color, maybe see that line a little stronger. So I've got the line here. This is my 3x6 diamond. This line goes on the base of my strip, and I want to make sure that I leave myself room up here, that I will have enough room for my strip to be able to cut my diamond shapes. And I can tell that this strip is wider than I need. Let me fix that because I want you to see how much room you actually need. I only need a 3 1/4 inch strip, and this strip is wider than that. So let me trim this down to 3 1/4 just so you can see. I'm going to just get rid of that because this is how wide that strip would normally be. And I'm going to line up this strip on the bottom and make sure I leave myself room here so that I don't chop off the point. When I get that in place, there's going to be just a tiny bit above the top of that tool. So I'm going to make a cut, and then I'm going to cut across the top so that I'm basically truing up that size exactly for the size I want. I'm going to turn all the way around, and now I'm going to put that same line on my cut edges. There's the diagonal line and the straight line that goes on the base of my strip. Make my cut, and there is a center diamond for my red and for my blue. And it doesn't matter on this one if you cut it face up or face down. So once I cut that first one off of the square end, this already sets me up for the shape I need for the next one. I'm going to line that up on the cut edges. And all I have to do is go across the strip, cutting up and across the top to true up that diamond shape. For this block, I only need 2 of each color. So I'm already through cutting my center diamonds for my Diamond Rex units. So I'm just going to get rid of all of this excess. These are the edges that I don't need, so I can put that aside. And I'm ready to get my pieces ready to sew. And I'm going to lay them down like this, just so you can see it. If you have a design board or some way to set this up here on your cutting table to carry it to the stitching area, that's pretty handy, because I want to make sure that when I get this set, I have the right side of this side triangle fabric up, and I have the points at the top and the bottom, and I have the flat part of this on the sides, because it's possible to stitch these on the wrong side of your block, and then you'll be unhappy and you'll be grabbing your seam ripper. So as long as you remember to put the flat side in the middle where the wider part, That's not the wider part. That's just the middle. So that as long as you have, see, you could stitch it there, but it will not work. So you want to make sure that you line up all of your triangles where it looks like a rectangle before you stitch anything. And we're just lining up everything. So I've got a stack of blue diamonds with my side triangles and a stack of red with my side triangles. And it already starts to show that rectangular shape, which is what I'm after. This is what I'm making. So I'm going to go to the stitching area now. Now, what I've done is just carry my tool over to the sewing area just on top with my fabric on top, just to keep everything organized. And I'll put that out where you can see it. So what I'm going to do, what we're going to do is put these opposite corners on first. So we're going to just grab one of our diamonds, and then I'm going to grab a stack of my triangles, and I want to make sure that I end up with the triangle on the right side. Like I said, you could actually stitch that on there and it will fit. It just will not ever trim to the right size. And so I'm going to put one of each here, and I like to sew with my diamond on top. The reason is this diamond is cut to the shape that it's going to stay. This triangle is going to get trimmed. All of the triangles are going to get trimmed. So I'm going to flip my diamond over. I think I'm going to turn it around and I'll tell you why. See how this point is laying down flat and this one wants to curl up? I don't want to have to fight that right now. So I'm just going to turn this around because it's the same shape, whether it's right side pointing up or pointing down. But I'm going to match up the pointy end of that triangle with the pointy end of my diamond shape. The flat part is going to hang over, which is what I want. I'm going to have a little extra there. That's going to get trimmed off so I don't have to sweat it. Now, if you haven't gotten yourself in a habit of using a fabric tag, this is a really good time to do that because you're going to need to be able to stitch this without your machine eating the points of your diamond shape. And we're just going to stitch right off of the fabric tag onto the triangle. And we're going to line up right along the edge. And I'm following my patchwork foot, my 1/4 inch foot, right along the edge of my diamond shape. So I'm just going to do that with the next one. And I'm going to grab, this is the triangle I'm not using yet. I'm going to grab the other one so I can put pointy ends together, let the flat part just float. Line that up. And I noticed Phyllis had said it's really easy to grab the wrong triangles. That's why you want to stack them up where they look like a rectangle before you start stitching anything. Wouldn't you know, I'm out of bobbin thread. Let me see if I can get this. I haven't even been sewing today. We've been putting up fabric as fast as we could go. So let's just get rid of that and put a new bobbin in, and then we'll be ready to go. You want to get yourself where you can do your bobbin blind. By that, it's not empty. So I don't know what happened there because usually I don't have any problems with that, thinking it is empty, but it is not empty. Let's try it again. You know, some days are like that. Okay. So Kim says she doesn't have Instagram. Well, you can always go to our website and shop. So, and I can't remember for sure where Kim is from, so I don't know if she has, I have no bobbin thread. So let's do this over. Anyway, our Instagram is where we generally post new fabric, but you know, Instagram and Facebook change so fast that the last time I posted new fabric, it showed up on Facebook too. So we may be lucky again this time. We'll just see. check tomorrow, Kim, and see if it shows up. Okay, I think it wasn't empty. It was just not there. So after it stitched a little while, it was giving me a signal. Makes it kind of nice, I have to say. There are machines out there that they don't tell you when they don't have any bobbin thread, and you're sewing merrily along and it doesn't tell you you have no bobbin thread. This one stops and it will not sew till you take care of it. So I'm just stitching from one to the other. Assembly line sewing is your most efficient way of stitching if you can do that with whatever project you're doing. And I'm just doing the same process on all four of them. That being said, assembly line sewing is your most efficient way of sewing. If you make a mistake on the first one, guess what? You make a mistake on a whole bunch of them. So you do want to kind of make sure, sometimes it's a good idea to stitch one before you start stitching all of them, and then you don't have that issue. So I'm going to stitch off of my pieces onto my assembly line pieces, and then I'm ready to put the other line on. Now I want to show you something. This is the part that'll go here. I cannot stitch this one next. Let me back it up so you can see what I'm talking about. I can't stitch this one next. I have to stitch the one that goes here, because until I press this triangle back, I can't add this one. So you want to do your opposite sides. So I'm just going to flip this over. Again, I'm going to stitch from the top whenever possible. I said that from the top. From the diamond side whenever possible, so that I can maintain my accurate 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I'm watching this diamond shape, because that's the shape that's already the size it's going to stay. I'm not going to trim anything off of that. And I'm just lining up right along that triangle. Hang on a second, let's get that under there. And line up here. And the Diamond Rects has some really fun things you can do with it. Again, I can't put this triangle on until I've got this triangle on. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab the two that go here. Remember, the pointy ends connect. So I'm just going to flip my diamond over, connect the two pointy ends. The flat part just floats across the middle of my diamond. And I'm going to stitch right onto that. There's fun things you can do with your diamond shapes. You can put a whole bunch of them together side by side, and that'll make an interesting border. Or you could put them end to end and also make a border with them. I have a project I'll show you in just a minute where I've put a bunch of them side by side that has created my sashing. And it's a project that I've done a while back. I haven't got the pattern finished yet. So I'm just going to get this out of my way and grab my fabric tag, part my needle so that I'm ready to cut these apart. And you can do scissors, or you can do a needle cutter, thread cutter, just on your machine. Even the thread cutter that's on the side of your machine will do that. Sometimes it's a little awkward. So I just stuck one on the top of my machine. So we're going back to the overhead camera, and we're going to grab our iron. Now, when you are pressing this first step, you want to make sure that you're not being real heavy-handed with your iron, because this is a bias edge. So I like to give it just a little finger press to get the seam going the way I want it to go. And I'm pressing away from my diamond. Once I get my finger pressing done, I just set my iron on it. Let the iron do the work while you get the next one ready. And I typically press several at a time, finger press it, and then I'm just going to move my iron out of the way and set my iron down on it. And I can do that with all four of these for this project. And I will tell you, by the way, the next block also has some Diamond Rects in them. So you'll get practice on this for a couple of weeks. I like to stack my units like this so they get just a little extra time under the iron. And if you aren't finger pressing ahead of time, it's very possible that you're distorting your blocks, your units, because if I'm just taking the iron and shoving that seam over, it's possible that I am distorting that seam and I'm going to be not getting the precision that I'm after. And when I'm using this acorn pressing pen, I just give it a quick swipe. I can do all of them, and while they're sitting there, I can put the iron down on it, add the next one, because it doesn't take a lot of time, but it will give you much better results. Some people like to use a clapper when they're pressing. I don't use one, but that's also a good tool. But this way, your pieces are laying down nice and flat. Now I'm going to grab my other triangle so I'll show you. When you have this unit this far, you can easily see when you put the other two on, it's still going to have that rectangular shape with a diamond in the center, which is what you're after. So let me grab these. And by the way, I told you to make sure it's going to end up being a rectangle before you stitch it together. Ask me how I know that. Because every mistake there is to make, I have made it, usually when I'm not paying attention or I'm in a hurry. So I do try to give you a heads up on the things that I know could be a problem for you. So here is my split, or I keep saying split Rects because that's what we did last week, my diamond Rects, and I can look at this. First of all, I've already stitched on all of the triangles that are the opposite. So I know that now the triangles that I have left, because I cut only enough for the 4 diamond Rects that I'm making, I don't have to worry about mixing them up because all I have left are these triangles that fit on this side. Now this side, this time I can either match up my pointy ends here and let the corner, the flat corner, end up across the middle of my diamond. I can also flip it over, and I have seen people stitch it both ways. Like I said, I like to stitch with the diamond on top because I can see whether I'm staying within my accurate 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm just going to line that up and stitch right along the edge of my diamond shape. And I'm going to do that with all 4 of my diamonds. And I'm going to flip them over, match up the points, let the flat part just float and stitch. And if you'll hold up high on the edge of that triangle above, you can get your diamond shape underneath your needle without having it kind of fold up on you. And again, I've got another one, pointy end to pointy end. I'm actually matching up the point of the triangle with the point of the diamond shape. And that's another reason for stitching from this side, because I can see easier whether I've got those points are matched up. So we're going to keep stitching. Oh, I know, I forgot to tell you something. I was going to talk to you about technique sheets. I have the whole technique sheet stack behind me. And by the way, there's 3 new ones. I have them ordered and they'll be here later this week. They are, 2 of them are for the Star 60 tool and 1 of them is for the Wedge Star tool. So those will be coming, but I want to show you. Get to the right thing. These are all the technique sheets. There are 38 of them, and they give you lots of information for more things you can do with your tools. Don't forget, up here there is a icon that tells you which tool it goes with. Here is a level of difficulty indicator. This one's a 5 stars. This one up here is a 3 stars. So I have all of them except the 3 new ones, but they'll be here later this week or early next week. So if you don't own them yet, be sure and contact us and we can get them to you, or you can come by the shop and we'll fix you up so you have the technique sheets. Some of them we will be using during this series of Blockbuster Bash. Some of them are ones that we've used before, but they are very handy. So again, now I'm ready to put the last triangle on, and it's going to be point. I'm not on the right camera. Hang on a second. It's going to be the point to the point, match them up, and line up that so you can stitch right along the side. And we're lining up the long side, and I'm guiding from the diamond shape on top. The triangle shape, it's going to get trimmed off. So I'm not really worrying too much about that. So Betty says she's going to be calling, and I know she will because we are her supplier. I hate to say I'm a pusher, but I guess I kind of am. I'm an enabler. I enable you to make great blocks. So we're going to line this up. We're stitching right along the diamond shape. And we'll stitch right along the edge. And I've got one more to do. No, I have two more to do. I get to talking and I forget where I am. So line up the points. Question? And one more. So when I get this on here, I'm going to be ready to trim because there's only 4 triangles to add to this diamond shape. And I'm guiding from the diamond, not the triangle. Like about using the Studio 180 design tools is I don't have to fuss with it when I'm sewing. I can just stitch. I do kind of have to pay attention. I want to have a consistent 1/4 inch seam allowance along this diamond shape, but I'm going to be trimming these triangles away. So I'm going to be able to get the precision I need without having to be real fussy with my stitching. So I'm ready to go to the overhead so that I can press this and show you how it's trimmed. Again, you want to make sure that you give this a quick little finger press to get the seams going the way you want them and folded back without having to be moving your iron around and sawing, because that's when people distort their units. So I'm just going to give it a quick little finger press. And notice when I'm finger pressing, I don't start at one end and just zip all the way across. I do little short strips or swipes, because if you just zip right across that seam, that's also a good way to distort your blocks if that's got some bias edges in the seam that you just sewed. So, any questions I need to deal with, Tony? Tony's watching today. And we're going to trim this. So let me get this all out of my way. You can see this. Remember, if you are left-handed, you're going to turn your unit horizontal so you can trim up the short side and across the long side. For all of us right-handed, we are going to put the unit here vertically. Now, if you remember back to when we were using the squared tool, we had an X marking the spot where our intersection was on all of our sizes. I think I've got a place I need to repress because even with the finger pressing, it flipped and it did not press where I wanted it to. So I'm going to find the X's on this particular unit that say 3x6. So there's one up here and there's one here. When I get these 2 in place, that should automatically get these other 2 in place, the bottom and the left side. And then my rectangle is here, the 3.5 by 6.5. That's my cut size so that it will finish at 3x6. Notice how well that fits. The X's fit on my intersections. Mark the first 2 that have your sizing information, and the other 2 should just fall into place. If they're not falling into place, a couple of things could be happening. You may either be cutting this improperly, or you may be distorting when you press. That's often what the problem is pressing and they're distorting. So there is my Diamond Rex unit. It's trimmed to 3.5 by 6.5. It'll finish at 3 by 6, and all of my intersections will come right to the point where they belong. Let me show you another one. Here's 3 by 6, and I'm lining up all the X's. There's my 3 by 6, there's my 3 by 6, and just tweak it until all 4 X's line up on the intersections. And we're going across, and we're lining up again. This time I'm first looking at the 3.5 by 6.5 inch line. Now I'm just going to tweak it where those X's fall within those intersections where they need to, so that I end up with the size that I need. And I've got 2 more to do, and then I have all I need for this block. You can actually make a whole quilt with just this block. Put them side by side by side, and it creates a really interesting little quilt block or quilt top. It's a good way to use up scraps because you could have all different colors of diamonds. You could have a matching color of your squares or rectangles. There's a little place right there where the seam allowance didn't get trimmed. And I've got one more. So you can use these blockbuster patterns more than once. Sometimes it's a good way to practice. You can make table runners. And also, remember, we're making all 12-inch blocks, but you are not committed to only 12-inch blocks. Since these tools all make multiple sizes, you can change the size of your block just by changing the size of your units. So I can put these side by side by side and create a really interesting little border or sashing. We'll put this here. You could create a little pattern where you have alternating blocks. Now I want to show you a quilt. Some of you may have seen this before. It's got more pieces in it than just Diamond Rex. But the sashing in this quilt has diamond rectangles. And all I did was make 3 different sizes. So I've got a 3 by 6, a 2 by 4 on both sides, and a 1 by 2 on both sides of that. And then I've got some economy blocks in my corners that make the corner squares. There's a neat little block made out of corner beams and chevrons that you could also add to that. So this is called Carnival. I haven't got the pattern completely, the instructions completely written, but that is something you can look forward to. And you can make all kinds of interesting looks just by making those diamond rectangle units. So any questions I need to? Okay, so next week we'll be using Diamond Rex again in a different size, a different block, along with, I think there's a technique sheet involved, but I will be sharing that information with you. Be sure and look for our Instagram. If you are on Instagram, that's where we post new fabric. And then watch and make sure it may show up on Facebook too. I don't know how all of that works. Also, on our videos that we're sharing with you, our demonstrations for the different tools, will also be posted on YouTube. Thank you, Tony. YouTube for you to watch, and you can watch them over and over. So come see us when you have time. We have lots of new fabric to share with you, and we'll see you next week live at 5. So until then, happy